Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Firefly, episode 13. It is called Heart of Gold. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. This is the final of the three that never aired, at least not originally, and focuses on a old compatriot of Inara's who runs a sort of more typical whorehouse on this backwater moon, asking for help because one of her girls is pregnant, and the evil corrupt sheriff who's the father who wants to take the baby, and that's the gist of the episode. So the Serenity comes in to help, and the crew all have a bit of a standoff, a bit of a sort of siege style episode. Couldn't help but think of the End of Godless when I was watching this a little bit, actually.
I get that.
Just from just a couple of years ago, that new Netflix miniseries, very good. I recommend it.
It was pretty good. I don't feel like a lot of people watched it, but they should.
They should. It's good. A notable guest star in this one, Melinda Clarkson. There is Nandi as an hour's old friend. I'd forgotten her was in this, actually, and then when I saw her, I was like, oh yeah, Melinda Clarkson in this. Who you may know from a couple of different things. She was on Nikita, I think the whole show. I mean, assuming her character, made it to the end. I don't know if she did, but
I have the Blu-ray box set of that, and I've never watched a single episode.
Yeah, she's a main character in there. I actually know her when she was younger from Return of the Living Dead Part 3. So
of course you do.
So that's where I knew her from. She was on another TV show. I want to say it was called Point Pleasant. It was Marty Noxon who did it. It was after the end of the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Marty Noxon had her own show called, I think it was Point Pleasant. I think Melinda Clark was on that.
I mean, you might be right. She's one of those that I know I've seen her in things, but I wouldn't be able to go, oh yeah, that's what she's from.
Well, I've given you a few. So, yeah, we'll work through it. So, the episode begins... we see the house, which has got tinfoil all over. Pretty much. They give a reason that later. I didn't even note it down, but there was some reason. Solar reflector or something or other.
Do you know what I'm going to say before we get into this?
Yes.
We've been talking a lot, over these last couple of episodes that these are the ones that didn't air and generally considered the weakest, and we've got these are better than you kind of remembered.
Mm-hmm.
I do think this is one of the weakest episodes of the show.
Okay, yeah. I think it's fair. I think it's on the low end.
It's a pretty high bar as a show, so it's not terrible. But the last two we've both gone, yeah, that was better than we remembered. I don't think this one is. It's still fine, but it's not any better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Although once again, Jane managed to sneak in one of the best lines of the season.
God damn it! I'm pretty sure there's only one episode you haven't said that now.
But he does. He just does, and it's 2 words. It's literally 2 words, and it's amazing.
It's very good.
So we see the house. We see Burgess is the guy's name. Come up. He's got a little. In fact, this is a very Star Wars looking little speeder thing he's got. It comes up.
It is, yeah.
And he comes up to the house with a couple other fellas, and he's there. He just get basically a DNA test for the baby. It's in this woman's belly,
just to prove it's his.
Yeah, he jabs her with this spike. It looks quite vicious for the stabbing into a pregnant woman's belly.
It does. She doesn't seem to be in that much pain considering how it looks.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
visually it's distressing, I guess.
And they're basically all saying, oh, he's going to come back when he knows it's his baby, blah, blah, blah. But, we're this and that. Who would help us? Cut to Mal, because you have to do the cut, the story beat cut.
Because there's 3 of those in this episode.
It answers our question. He's cleaning his guns. There's a little... First of all, he gets scared by an arrow sneaks up on him by accident, and there's a little bit of a joke here about him making a noise. And he says never sneak up on a man when he's cleaning his weapon, which, I mean, if that's not innuendo, especially when it goes on to say something like, well, you maybe shouldn't be doing that in the kitchen. And he's like, well, the kitchen is the only place with a big enough table.
Yeah, the innuendo is clear.
Yes. So, and she cracks a little joke about how the small gun's supposed to go in the letter. She's, making a joke about...
It's a cutlery joke.
Yeah, it's a cutlery joke. But
which I don't get because I'm uncultured.
Yes, and she gets a call. Wash comes in, and she's just called Malik a ruffian and thief and scoundrel. And Wash comes in, there's a call. It's like a mayday call coming from Amun. And Mal's like, oh, we're just thieves, are we? Oh, let's go help the little folk. Someone needs help.
I believe the phrase she called him was petty crook.
Petty crook, there you go. And then he's like, no, it's for her. He's like, huh? It's for an hour. It's like, damn it.
And she's just like, yeah, just patch it through to the shuttle.
Yeah. So then he starts playing with his gun and sort of... Because he lied and said the noise he made
playing
was...
with his gun, eh?
Yes, he plays with his gun. Because he lied earlier and claimed that the noise he made when he was scared, when he got a little jump, was like a hurrah sort of noise.
Like a war cry.
Yeah. So he kind of does it again here when he's on his own, sort of redoing it to make it sound like it is something that he's doing intentionally. But it comes off as kind of pathetic, like he's trying to convince himself.
He is definitely trying to convince himself, yeah, because there's no one else around at this point.
So, another call after the opening credits, we see her talking to, what was the name? Nandi is the lady's name. And she's saying, they'll do the job, but the crew on the ship will do it. And Nandi says, well, like... anyone with brains and guns will do. And then Howard just goes, they've got guns. I give me a small chuckle.
I feel like Simon should be very offended here.
Yes. And then...
And maybe Zoe too, in fact.
The call ends, and then Howard just says, so did you hear all of that? And Mal just pokes his head out and goes, only because I was eavesdropping.
That is probably one of my favourite lines, outside of Jane,
yes.
in this episode.
So... and she uses the word whore. She calls them whores, and he's like, "Well, you don't like that word." And she's like, "Well, no, it applies here. She's independent. She's not in the she's not with the guild."
Yeah.
So it's actually literally an old school whorehouse. And Mal, sort of again maybe try to prove to her from the previous scene, his ego's been hurt a little bit, and so because she makes a point saying, "No, they can pay you. They've got money to pay. They're not like poor." And he says, "Nope, no payment will be required." He's playing the hero.
Yeah, I think she offers to pay herself as well.
She does. Yeah, she actually jumps in and says, "Yeah, I've got money spared away as well." And she actually, after he says no payments needed, she insists, no, they should definitely pay because our relationship should remain professional. And it's almost like, much like he's trying to kind of convince her that he's not just this petty crook, she's also trying to like convince herself and him that the relationship is not in any way familial or romantic or anything else. Like, she doesn't want any sort of personal thing. She's in denial.
It's already clearly too late.
Yeah,
but
she's in
this
denial.
is just, hey, look how professional we are.
Yes. So it comes to a meeting with the crew, as they've clearly explained this. Not all of it, as we'll get to one point in a minute, but he's explaining this, and they don't know exactly how much they're getting paid yet, or but there's this house, these people in trouble, and Jane, like 2 or 3 times, pipes in saying, "Nah, we shouldn't do this, and it's volunteer, but okay, I'm not doing it then, because we have to confirm payment, we have to make sure this is not just some charity work, blah 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 blah." And he's like, "I'm definitely not in. I don't care who they are." And it cuts to Mal, he goes, "They're whores." And the cut back to Jane when he says his following line is so quick, like it's not even a beat. It just cuts back to him, he goes, "I'm in." Like,
yeah. It is the speed of the edit here is that you really feel how quickly he jumps in with that change of mind.
Yeah. It's actually almost absurdly quick. Like, in almost any scene, this cut between 2 lines of dialogue would be too quick and we'd be calling that a mistake. But here, it adds to the joke, so it's very clearly intentional how quick this cuts.
Like you say, anywhere else, and we'd be going, that was off. But here, no. That was perfect.
I'm in. It's really slight thing is this is one of the episodes where I don't necessarily remember as much of it as some of the other bigger ones, but as this scene was starting, I remembered how it ended, and I started to have this grin on my face because I knew what Jane was going to say.
As soon as they start talking, you're like, "Oh, I know where this is going."
Yeah,
and I think the beauty of it is, even if we're on a rewatch of God knows how many times, and we have seen it before, and it triggers the memory. I think even if you've not seen this before, you kind of know where this scene's going as soon as Jane's being, insistent that he's against it.
Yeah, you can see where it's going. So then they arrive at the house. I noted down that Jane is wearing a fancy shirt. Everyone else is wearing what they normally wear, but Jane's got like a black and white striped shirt on.
He's making occasion out of this.
He's wanting to look smart. They come in, they meet Andy and whatever, and I just noted there a couple of random things because a lot of little things going on in this scene as the various characters are interacting with each other. Kaylee notes that there's boy whores, and she says it in this really cute way where she's like, "Oh, boy whores, that's thoughtful. I wonder if they serve women folk." And Simon kind of asks, "Oh, well, you'd want to pay for it?" And she's like, "Well, no one else is lining up." It's just kind of
gives him a look.
Yeah, it's kind of a nice continuation of the beat from last episode where she was mad at him, and it's like, okay, they're clearly better than they were during the fight last episode, but it's not been forgotten about. There's still
definitely
a displacement, and it's what I was saying last episode about how the actions and the mood between characters from last episode still plays a factor in this episode, and that's good TV writing. Damn it!
I mean, of course it would. Why wouldn't it?
Do you watch the CW?
Yeah.
There's a funny line here where Jane starts saying something. I don't even catch what he said, but Wash just jumped in. Would be that you be poetic about your pecker, because Jane says something about his penis.
Yeah, he gives it a fancy name and starts talking about courting the girls with it.
Yeah, a couple of the girls want Book to help them with prayer because they've been having trouble finding a proper sermon recently.
He's really uncomfortable at first because he thinks they're just going, propositioning him.
Yeah, but they're actually saying, no, we want a shepherd, we want a book. Or not, you know what I mean?
Yeah. There's a bit at the end of this where they talk about, there was a shepherd, however many months back, but, he only did the one prayer and then, he wanted stuff in return. And he kind of just goes, he gives this look where he's like, God damn it, that bastard.
Yeah. So, and then the final part of this, which I really liked, is it was Kaylee and Wash who were left sort of standing alone. And Kaylee just sort of goes, Wash, tell me I'm pretty. And Wash says, were I not married, I would take you in a manly way. Because I'm pretty? Because you're pretty.
I think my favourite bit is it doesn't say were I not married, it says were I unwed.
Were I unwed, sorry, yes. Were I unwed, I'd take you in a manly fashion.
Yes. It's such specific wording that it stuck in my mind as, if I were not married, if I were single, no, if I were unwed.
Because I'm pretty, because you're pretty. Good stuff. So then we get the situations explained. Nandi explains it to Mal. Mal wants to meet the guy, so him and Anara go to this party in town, classic Western style town, and he introduces himself. It almost brought memories back of Shindig because he's got the suit on again. Anara's on his arm. And he says, oh, she's a pretty one, and he was actually talking about his wife, who doesn't seem to be fazed by the fact that he knocked up a hooker. I mean, that seems to be a non-issue.
Yeah, I guess she's long accepted it.
I guess it just goes with the sort of the toxic male power that's in this town, that she's just meant to accept that, and it's not an issue. But Burgess thinks he's talking about his fancy laser gun, which he pulls out and starts to like, oh, look at this, it's that, and he even hands it over to Mal so Mal can feel it, and and we're definitely talking about guns here, not penis. I
mean, there's a little bit of measuring going on, let's be honest.
So Mal wants to leave. As soon as they get out, he's like, no, we have to go. And then we cut to a scene at the house where he's like, no, we should run. We should all run. I don't just mean us on the ship. I'm not abandoning you. I'm saying the advice is you need to run too. Because they are far more armed, they are far more dangerous than we'd ever anticipated. We can't necessarily fight them in a fair fight. And Nandi basically stands up and says, no, this is my home and I'm not going to let anyone take it. I'm pretty sure you'd feel the same way and do the same thing in my situation. And Mal says, what was the exact line? You're my kind of stupid. So, they bond a little bit. If you're going to get maybe hints that maybe there will be some sort of romantic thing going on between them, this is probably the first time you really feel it. Because she's kind of... Because, I mean, you think about like Mal's ideals and how much he cares about his ship and how much he cares about his causes when he does have one. It makes sense that he would respect this. He would respect that she's like, no, I'm not giving up.
Yeah.
I'm fighting this. So, and then everyone else kind of... Funnily enough, the first person who chimes in after this to sort of show support and say, yeah, we should do this is Jane. Where Jane's like, they won't be expecting this much of a fight. We can catch them off guard.
He wants the horse for himself.
Apparently he does.
He wants the reward, let's be honest.
So, well, he's already cashing in the reward consistently throughout the entire episode.
He is, but he's figuring he can get even more if it's successful.
Yeah. So, Book's like, oh, I can fortify the place. He's going to board up the windows and shit. Wash. Actually, there's a funny little moment where Zoe says something about taking shifts, and she said it in this really specific way. It's very confident, and Wash just kind of repeats it and goes, "Yeah, 4x3. Yeah, that sounds good." Try to appear smart. It's funny.
Yep.
So yeah, that's basically it. That was basically the planning scene, which sets up where we're going. I think the thing about this episode is that this could have been like a cooler episode where it really is just all about how much they have to prepare for this and then the fight itself. But so much of it kind of diverts to just personal stuff, and usually in a Whedon show that's actually okay. Usually we care enough about the characters and it's well enough handled that we're actually into the personal stuff taking the front seat.
And it's not that the personal stuff is bad here.
It's not bad. It actually, I mean, it does solid things for both Malin and Ara and their relationship and their characters. It drives them forward in a way that this needs to do.
You just find yourself actually craving the excitement a little bit, the action.
Yeah. There's just a couple of beats here that just feel a little bit like, okay, there's nothing wrong with this scene with Mal and Andy kind of getting drunk and sort of flirting and, her acknowledging that I can tell you're into an Ara. I'm like, I was trained as a companion, I can tell. And Mal kind of sticking up for himself, but not denying it. Notably, he kind of shrugs it off and avoids the conversation essentially, but he doesn't deny it. But ultimately, you have this, and then you have like later on her death, and I think her death may be one of the weakest elements of the episode actually, because it's like, you know what, she was fine, but I wasn't necessarily at the point yet where this was going to have an impact, because she's still a one and done character in terms of.
It just kind of happens.
Yeah. So, and I think because honestly, as I was watching this, I thought, yeah, it's a shame she died at the end, because I feel like much like some of the other characters we've talked about in previous episodes, I could have almost seen her being a recurring character. Every couple of, maybe every half season we come back to this moon for some reason. This could be a safe haven when they're running from something. Like they could come and hide here. They've got allies here, kind of thing.
I can see that.
But she's dead by the end, so I mean, obviously it's just null and void. But I was thinking that. But anyway, so they're preparing. There's a funny cut here where the girls come to Book and say, "Oh, we're discussing what we'd like you to say. Should we die?" And Book's like, "Oh, don't be silly. I only do that for the dead. Like no one is going to die." And it cuts immediately to Jane saying, "People are going to die," and he explains his very quick plan to the one girl that he's taking a liking to. He's like, "Hey, usually pass me these guns, and I'm going to keep shooting through the window, right? So we've got the plan. Good. Let's have sex." And then. Sex and shoes.
That pretty much sums up the scene.
Yeah. So, there's that. And there's another funny beat. It's cutting around a lot of this part of the episode. There's another funny little beat where obviously Simon's saying to the pregnant woman, and Nara's kind of helping him, and they're sort of talking her through things and what the plan's going to be. And, after they've given her some advice, Nara comes up to Simon and says, "Hey, like, how many babies have you delivered before?" Obviously, he's a really well-trained doctor, but how many babies have you delivered? Because that's obviously more of a speciality. And he's like, "Well, counting, I can't know what the word he used, but, basically including med school, he's like, this would be my first."
I think it was as the lead, it would be his first.
Okay, sure. And then Anara goes, "Yeah, mine too." And then just completely deadpan, straight-faced, do you know what? There's not a lot of River in this episode, but every time it cut to her just staring at this woman's vagina, it was cracking me up, because she's just staring like, what do you think's in there? But anyway, it goes to her and she goes, "Mine too." And both Anara and Simon look at her like, well, yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, I watched this just before we started, give or take, within an hour or so. And those two lines are, I think, the only moments of River I can remember in the entire episode. Now,
the only other thing is that she says it's starting earlier when she goes into labour. She says it's starting right before her water breaks. So, not a lot of her. And that's fine. We've got 9 main characters. We can put
no, sure. Yeah, they have to take episodes off here or there. It just, maybe it's just my memory being funny, but it feels like a while since we've had a big River beat.
Joe, I think it is. It's because we took a big break between recording after Ariel.
I mean, possibly, but even in context, that was episode 8 or 9.
That was episode 9, yes.
Yeah, and this is 13.
Oh no, War Stories had the no power in the verse can stop me. I'd say that's a big river moment.
It's a medium river moment.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, so Mal and Andy get drunk. There's a fun little callback here to our Mrs. Reynolds, where after she kisses him for the first time, he's like, "I'm just waiting to see if I pass out." That was a neat touch. So one of the girls betrays them and actually warns Burgess in town. He makes a big rah-rah speech to all of his men. So they are expecting a fight, so they come in full force later, as would happen. Morning after, Mal comes out of the bedroom and tries to make excuses as he's getting dressed, which isn't going very well.
It's not very convincing, is it?
And Anara, very convincingly, for what it's worth, says, "Hey, I'm a companion. Like I see the merit in doing this to relieve stress. I am not
Yeah. She talks about how she's happy for her friend because she needed this, and Mal's like, "Well, I didn't want you to think I was taking advantage of her," and she's like, "Well, she's very good for being taken advantage of."
Yeah, but of course, the next time we see Anara, she's in a room on her own crying. And I actually really like this beat because it's kind of a vulnerability that Anara doesn't often let anyone see, and she's not even letting anyone see it here. It was only us seeing it, but
we haven't seen it much.
Yeah, so it really played as a strong beat where, like, she knows how to play the game and sort of put the face on, but ultimately, I don't think she was expecting to care this much. I think this is kind of what convinces her, for a decision at the end of the episode, like actually caring as much as she does when she realizes this is.
Yeah, and it goes back to that beat earlier on where trying to stay professional, and when she makes that line, she doesn't realize that it's already not professional. She's just not consciously anyway. I think this is her kind of accepting that.
So, sure enough, Wash and Kaylee go to the ship. They get ambushed. Everyone's getting ready. There's a couple of jokes with Jane on the radio talking to his girl, and Mal's pulling him up for it. There is a beat here though where Nandi, when she sees Anara's reaction to what's happened, immediately goes, "Oh, I thought it was just him." Like, that's just her saying, "No, you feel for him too." Like, I never caught that before. And I like the idea that before, Anara was good enough to hide it because she has a companion, but after the emotional sort of like attack of like actually realizing it and like the aftermath of it actually happening, now our defenses are a little bit on the wonky side. Like, they're not as foolproof. So I thought it's a nice touch.
I think it's part that she didn't realize before.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't as immediately apparent. Part that her friend probably just wasn't looking for it in her because she didn't expect it of her.
Yeah.
But
and
now it's much more clear, so it's there.
And Andy even brings this up to Mal, like, "You never told me," and he's like, "What? Your feelings about her?" And just as she says that, the fighting starts happening. So there's never any sort of resolution beyond that. During that scene itself, there's fighting. They're coming at the house with horses.
It's fine.
Yeah, Burgess has got his laser gun. Kaylee and Wash are trying to like duck and dive in the ship to try and trap the guys in there. They do, and then Wash realizes he's stuck in the engine room, which they never actually give us an ending to. You have to assume they were stuck there until the rest of the crew went back to the ship and went, "Oh."
Yeah, they'll figure it out.
Well, not really. I suppose Kaylee's on the other side, so she can actually radio them and say, "Hey, we've got some guys trapped in the corridor here. You want to come and
Can we
help?"
give us a hand?
Yeah, but of course the one who betrayed them lets Burgess in. He gets to the baby, and now it gets quite dark for a moment and actually like holds a knife to his throat and like really gets to threaten him. Because he's like, "This baby's my blood," and she's like, "No, this is your blood," and holds a knife to his throat. I'm like, whoa, that was actually pretty dark.
It's a good line too.
Yeah, and then he ends up shooting Andy as he's trying to get away. Mal chases after him after he sees this, clearly hit by it emotionally, and he does grab her. He does grab him. Sorry, he catches up to him, and there's a line here which is actually really great in the context of the whole show, as well as just the moment itself. He says she was just a whore, and it's kind of a great double meaning because obviously in the moment itself, it's he killed this person. He doesn't see her as a person. Sees her as disposable, and Mal cared about her. But also in the context of Mal and Anara, where all season he has been dropping whore references as if it's trying to, as it to belittle her, and as if that makes her lesser. And I think this moment, like, obviously we don't really get to see because there's only one more episode left. But I have to wonder if after this episode, would he have ever called her a whore again? At least regularly. Maybe in a heat of like a
Not
big emotional
regularly. I'm
moment.
going to say if he was angry at some point, sure, maybe.
Yeah.
I think though this moment does make him reconsider. That it makes him on, on this guy's level, that he just lowers it to, she's just a whore. I think he probably does consciously kind of recognize that and avoid it from here on out. Again, in the heat of the moment, that might not be the case because it is, heat of the moment. He says things he doesn't mean. That's kind of Mal in a nutshell. But no, I think he does make a conscious decision and have that moment here.
Yeah, I think it might actually be the best moment of the episode. I mean, obviously there's some really funny moments, but I think in terms of emotional impact, I think this moment where he says that and Mel's like look in his face when he does say that, not just because he's angry because he just killed someone that he's kind of began to care about, but because of what it means to what his attitude is and what he's been saying all season. I think it has it's got the most weight behind it, the whole episode, I think.
I agree with that, definitely.
So that's a good moment. So yeah, I mean, the new mum comes out, shoots Burgess, kicks out the one who betrayed them, and they're going to stay strong, in Nandy's memory and like run the place and yada yada yada. And that's kind of that. They have the big funeral though, and everyone's standing around.
Two funerals in as many episodes.
2 episodes in a row with funerals.
Feels like they were trying to tell us something.
I think there is something interesting though, that in the first episode, or I say first, the last episode, it was someone from Mal's past, and then this was someone from Anara's past. I think it's interesting because a lot of this episode, even at one point, Nandy says to Mal, "You're actually a lot alike," and she describes how Anara, when she was in the school, how she would be really focused. She doesn't like complications. She went on a whole little speech about how you're actually kind of alike, and you don't realize it, despite the different walks of life you come from. And I think it's kind of interesting that these 2 episodes back to back, like, they are kind of alike. They've both just been through a similar thing. And despite the fact that they have these different backgrounds, someone from their past in both episodes has been struggling and ultimately met their demise in different contexts. But there is...
No, you're right. Both episodes are about helping someone from their past in different ways, of course. And both end in the funeral. And
I don't think it's an accident that they're back to back.
No, not at all. I mean, maybe it's a good job Fox never aired these, because there's no chance they'd have aired them back to back.
Notably, though, presumably in Objects in Space, or maybe another one, but they had an episode where the moment from the last scene where Anara says she's leaving, that was in the previously on, even though the episode hadn't aired.
Of course. To be fair, if you haven't aired it, you better make damn sure it's in the previously on for that context. Otherwise, the episode's going to be mighty weird.
So yeah, Mal's going to say to her, he's like, "Hey, I'm feeling truthful," and he wants to talk about how they feel about each other. And Anara kind of jumps in and says, "I've realized that, and she talks about how if you get attached to family, if you become part of a unit like that, and you feel that bond, it becomes hard to leave. You don't want to leave. So I should have done this a while ago. I'm leaving." And it ends kind of on this really somber note. And I think at this point, I do have to bring up something that we know that didn't happen in the movie, doesn't happen in the rest of the show, something we know about Anara's character, because I feel like this decision and why she doesn't want to be attached actually makes a lot of sense given what we've heard sort of just from Joss Whedon post-show. So kind of a spoiler in a sense, but it's a spoiler you're never going to see. So it's never going to happen.
I don't think it really counts as a spoiler anymore.
But apparently, had the show continued, we would have eventually found out that Anara was terminal. She had a terminal illness the entire time, and she ultimately was going to die. And this whole speech about her not wanting to be attached and wanting to sort of stay alone, so it's not hard to say goodbye, it makes a lot of sense with that context in mind.
It does, and it's one of those that in the moment in the episode itself, it's fine. It makes enough sense that okay, they've got close, and it just plays as she's scared of that, right? And doesn't want anything to that. She wants to stay, as she put it earlier in the episode, professional. But I think the actual context that we would have learned later is something that on a rewatch would have made this better.
Yeah. So I think the episode, I think it's pretty solid. I think it's saying something that this is one of the weakest episodes of the entire show, of all 14 episodes. But there's still some interesting stuff in there that we really dug out there that was actually very impactful and really tied into the themes of the characters and what they're doing, what they're going through. And
it's why I mentioned when I said at the start, this is one of my least favorites and one of the weakest. Is it's such a high bar. So this isn't a bad episode of network TV by any standard. it's still decent. It's still perfectly enjoyable. There's stuff going on. It's just not up to the standard that most of the rest of the show is.
Yeah, kind of a pacing thing, largely, I'd say.
Yeah, pacing and the diversion to the character stuff instead of the siege I don't think it did enough with those characters to kind of justify it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm really happy I sort of came across, sort of combining this with the last episode, though, and sort of looking at them as a pair, because I think that's actually quite interesting.
Yeah, I'd never thought of them that way before, but I think you're onto something there.
Yeah. So, no, good. Which does mean we have one episode left, and that is Objects in Space, so we'll see you next time for that. And then, of course, the movie Serenity will be the conclusion to these Firefly discussions. If you hadn't heard before, when we are finished with these Firefly reviews, we are going to do a new show, although it'll be a Patreon exclusive. Just $1 or more will get you access to it. It'll be audio only, and it'll be 6 feet under, which was voted for by our patrons, so you can go there. And speaking of our patrons, thank you to Keith Beard for sponsoring these Firefly reviews. He does that at the $10 tier, so thank you to him. You can support us on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV for as little as $1, and you can get bonus episodes of certain things, outtakes and tangents that were cut out and things like that. So go and have a look at that. Just for $1, $5 gets you early access to some stuff. It gets you voting rights, and then there's obviously other stuff at the higher tiers. So go have a look. You can also rate the podcast on Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars, helps more people find us that way. You can let us know in the YouTube comments what you think of the episode, and like and ding the bell. Make sure you get the notifications if you're subscribed. So you can do all that stuff. All that does help us. And of course, check out all the content we've got. Me and Connor do Star Trek: The Next Generation right now. We did all the original series. We're on season 2 of Next Gen, so that's going swimmingly. Me and Tara do Twilight Zone, the original classic Twilight Zone, so you can go check out that, as well as obviously a lot of new shows and movies and stuff. So, but that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys, but curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal.